Here's a quick introduction to Writing Project 1, the rhetorical analysis. The purpose of a rhetorical analysis is twofold. Number one, you're going to be asked to summarize a particular academic text. The purpose of summarization is to demonstrate an understanding of the author's message. Number two, you're going to be asked to analyze that author's rhetorical choices. And the purpose of this analysis is for you to demonstrate an understanding of how the author rhetorically presents their desired message, as well as how those choices work together in order to reach the author's target audience. So basically, the rhetorical analysis asks, who is saying what? How are they saying whatever they're saying? And perhaps most importantly, how well are they saying it? I know those sound like some pretty complex questions, so in order to answer them, we're going to need a good understanding of a few key terms. First, you're going to need to understand what we talk about when we talk about genre. Genre is a pretty complex topic, but for the purposes of our class, when we talk about genre, we're talking about how exactly a text is composed. One of the ways that genres are created is through conversations that happen between groups of people referred to as discourse communities. And if you break down the phrase discourse communities, it's exactly what it sounds like. These groups of people talk and write about the same topic frequently and with such fervor that eventually those conversations develop their own insider language and they start to look and sound the same. Eventually, these conversations, especially when they're written down, look so much the same that we refer to them as a genre, such as the genre of academic rhetorics, closed form essays, sports writing. Any of those things are examples of genres. You're also going to need to understand what an audience is. An audience is who the author is trying to reach through a particular text. And I will often use target audience synonymously with audience. Who is the author trying to reach through whatever they are writing about or talking about? Most students don't really struggle with purpose. Purpose, easily enough, is the author's reason for writing. Similarly, students often have a pretty good handle on what organization means. Organization is how the author arranges information, visuals, ideas, etc. Organization often occurs at the document, paragraph, and sentence levels, and are often also shaped by genre constraints. Even though style sounds like kind of a lofty ideal, when we talk about style in this class, we're really talking about the way a writer writes. How exactly are they conveying the information they're trying to convey to their target audience? Style can be determined by things like word choice, tone, authorial voice, and can also be shaped by genre constraints. While you've probably heard the terms genre, audience, purpose, organization, and style before, even if only you've vaguely encountered them in English classes that you've had in the past, something that you may not have encountered is the idea of rhetorical appeals. Some high schools cover rhetorical appeals, some do not. Nonetheless, when we talk about rhetorical appeals, we're talking about how the author is attempting to reach their target audience. This is also shaped by genre constraints and expectations, but rhetorical appeals are how exactly the author is using elements of language, organization, style, purpose, all of those things. How are they working both separately and together? How are all of these terms, all of these elements functioning both on their own and as a team in one text in order to relay the author's message? And one of the purposes of the rhetorical analysis is for you, as a reader of this text, to answer the question, are these rhetorical choices effective or not? Is the author effectively appealing to their target audience or not? In order to get started on your own rhetorical analysis, you're going to read 3 very short chapters from a collection called Bad Ideas About Writing. The first section you're going to read is Terry Holbrook's and Melanie Hudley's Writers are mythical, magical, and damaged. The second section you're going to read is Paul G. Cook's First Year Composition Should Be Skipped. And the final section you're going to read is Dustin Edwards and Enrique Paz's Only Geniuses Can Be Writers. Something I should point out about bad ideas about writing, all of these chapter titles are popular myths about writing. So, for example, Terry Holbrook and Melanie Hunley do not actually believe that writers are mythical, magical, and damaged. Rather, they are using this chapter to address and debunk that particular myth. After you have read these 3 short chapters, you're going to choose just one to focus your rhetorical analysis on. Pick the one that is the most appealing, compelling, bizarre. Pick the one that stands out the most to you. Ultimately, your rhetorical analysis is going to culminate into a 1,250 to 1,500 word essay about your chosen chapter. And you're writing this rhetorical analysis with your English 106 peers as your intended target audience. The first 200 to 250 words of your rhetorical analysis are going to be devoted to a summary of your chosen article's thesis, as well as any other main points that your chosen author brings up in this chapter in Bad Ideas About Writing. Take these first 200 to 250 words to explain to your reader what the author is saying. The rest of your essay, the bulk of your essay, is going to be devoted to an explicit analysis of that author's rhetorical choices. This is the portion of your analysis where you'll say, okay, if the author is saying this, are they saying it effectively, provided who their target audience is? You will need to include in-text citations and a works cited page, but we'll have another presentation on MLA format later. In addition to your rhetorical analysis, Writing Project 1 also includes a pretty short reflective essay. In this reflective essay, you're going to take at least 300 words to thoughtfully and critically describe your own writing process, as well as your own rhetorical choices throughout the drafting and revising of your rhetorical analysis. And you can answer any of the following questions. What experience, if any, have you had with scholarly articles and rhetorical analysis in the past? For example, did you have to write a rhetorical analysis or do any kind of reading of scholarly articles in your high school or earlier collegiate careers? You can also answer, what do you think has been the most difficult aspect of writing this paper? Was there a specific stage in reading or drafting that you found more challenging than others? What are you most proud of regarding your work on this paper? Is there any one thing, or if there are multiple things, you're welcome to write about more than one, that you feel you did very well in this rhetorical analysis? Finally, you can take a minute to speculate what you've learned from Writing Project 1, and this can be about yourself, about reading academic articles, about creating a writing schedule for yourself, especially in a summer session class. It can be about peer review, anything at all. And how are you going to take what you've learned about any of these things and incorporate those lessons later in your academic career, either later in this class or in a completely different class? Writing Project 1 is going to be assessed and graded according to the following factors. How well you satisfy the goals and purposes identified in the assignment description, which is available in document form on our Brightspace course site. Appropriate use of evidence to substantiate your claims through both paraphrases and direct quotations with in-text citations in correct MLA style. How well the analysis responds to the needs and expectations of your identified audience through elements that we talked about, such as tone, voice, etc. And remember, your identified audience in this paper is your English 106 peers. The organization, arrangement, and structure of the work, as well as how smooth your transitions are between your ideas. Your explanation of your writing process and rhetorical choices in your reflective essay. And finally, the proper formatting and proofreading in order to meet audience expectations. This assessment formula is pretty standard per all of our other writing projects that we'll have throughout the semester.